Okay, so hi everyone. I'm just making this quick video to for this course. It's a reflection assignment, and I'm gonna be answering 10 short questions about how this course changed my perspective on language. The first question says, generally speaking, what did you know about language before you took this course? Something that I knew about language was that, every language has a connection. I mean, I speak English and Spanish, and I can see that there's words that are very similar and mean almost the same thing. Also, in other languages, there's other words that I can identify, like numbers and some Spanish words that I can identify in Italian or Portuguese or French. There's really similar words, and some words mean what I think they do, and that's a connection that I can make. So I feel that languages, in a way, have a connection. Question number two says, what information in this course surprised you about language identification, and language use? I learned a lot about the the different families of each language. They do connect, but they each pertain to a specific family or group, you could say. As well, I learned about the tone, kind of like the sound that words make. They can change with just one one letter changing in the actual word, and it can mean completely something completely different. Um, I also learned about I learned that each language has its own method of saying things or speaking it, and that's why when people learn other languages have accents, because they use the same technique they used to learn their first language to learning a second language, and that's why they sometimes pick up an accent or say things differently than native speakers. But it's actually just people using the same technique they use for their first language. Based on the information about language learning, can you make connections in your own language learning experiences? Yes, I can. I actually grew up learning Spanish and speaking Spanish. That's my first language. But when I came to America, I started speaking English and learning the English when I was like 8 years old. So a connection that I can make is people can learn languages, any language really, but it's easier or it's easier for them to learn it or to adapt if they learn it when they're at a younger age. And that's something that I was able to realize because since I came here to America when I was like 8, my parents did too, and they don't speak any English, and they've been here the same time that I have, but they haven't really picked it up or learned it, even though they have taken English classes or courses before, and still their accent is too thick, you could say, or they can't pronounce English words and they can barely understand it. Next question. Based on the information given on bilingualism, how are you able to relate it to the education system in the RJV? I think that in the university that I attend, they're really good at this. I'm taking several Spanish courses, and the level of teaching is really high. And I know, here in the RGV, we're a border town next to Mexico, so it's something that it's necessary for people to know and speak and be fluent in both languages, English and Spanish. They need to learn and have completely control over both languages, so they can adapt to this area, or if they cross to Mexico and they want to do or buy something, they need to be fluent in Spanish or English. So I think it's really a high level, not only with English and Spanish, but I know there's people here who speak French, and there's classes who teach French, where they teach you French, but I'm not very really familiar with that. But I do have some friends in that area. Next question. In what ways did learning about gender and language help you think about language use and culture? I feel that through history, there's been cases where people view or see females as less or they're machistas, and I think that's something that has to do with it. I know language can affect our way of thinking, and I know in some languages like Spanish, there's words that are feminine, they have feminine adjectives, and others masculine adjectives like el, la. There's gender to every word or everything you say, and I feel that has an impact in the culture and way we think. It can be sometimes a negative one, but it can also be a positive one that identifies every person as who they are, female or male, I guess. But I mean, mostly I think it's just gender in language, and it's organized. I don't think it's a negative thing. Think. Now the next question says, how did the information on slang help you view language and use and language change? I think definitely there's proper ways of speaking to specific people or when you're at work or school, and when you're with your friends or even family. Sometimes if you have the trust, you can speak um, with slang words. But I think it's a way for us to express ourselves and to show our true colors, who we are, and say things that we want to say. Sometimes we can't find the correct words, or we cannot express ourselves how we would like to without using slang. So I think that's a connection that I can make of slang language and the way language changes. Now, how useful did you find the information of language and forensic linguistics? I think this is a good question because I was very interested in this topic since they showed us a video where they're able to identify people through text or people through their voices, and that's something that goes beyond my thinking. That's something that I would never thought to be possible. And they show this example where they identify the murder of a wife, which was the husband pretending to be her texting and saying things, and they identify him because of those texts, and they 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 found him guilty that he was the murderer, and I feel that was something really interesting. Uh, last three questions. How are your attitudes change? How have your attitudes changed toward other languages and cultures? I feel that I now have respect for every language, and I feel that every language is matters and is important. They're unique in a way, and if we have the opportunity to preserve a language that is almost extinct, we need to do everything we can to preserve it, to teach it to our, uh, you could say, descendants, and to do everything in our power to save those languages, as well to preserve ours. You know, our roots. How have your views on language changed or evolved during this course? Like I said, now I have a different perspective on languages, and I feel that, I mean, language is such a wonderful privilege that we have, that it allows us to say and express ourselves in in infinitely ways, and really, it's it's awesome because there's so many, and I mean, I just think that it's just incredible. What would you change about the information given in this course? I wouldn't change anything. I think it was really on point, really concrete, really specific as well, and really enjoyable. I was able to learn a lot about language, and I enjoyed this course. Thank you. I feel that's the 10 questions, and that's all I'm sharing.